Motion to start the meeting at 9:34.
Will we begin the meeting? Yes.
Yeah, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you. So first on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from December 12th. And the only comment I had was about starting the new format, which we can start for today's meeting.
I actually thought I had, but obviously I didn't.
It's fine. I mean, it's not even like it's not really a big deal. I just like to follow the rules. I can't help it. So
No, is there something particular about the format that I didn't follow? Because as I said, I thought I had.
I sent the template again.
Right.
And I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, that's right. I'll go back and look again. I can ask
The minutes were great.
Yeah.
They were great. We got all those documents from one of the chair meetings about minutes and
Right.
the other thing we're doing today, the appointment policy, stuff like that. So okay. Anyone else have comments for the minutes? I thought they were great.
Yeah, no comments.
So a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, thank you. And the treasurer's report for January. So now I'm going to do a screen share. How do I do this? Share screen. Did it work?
It just says Elizabeth. There it is.
Sorry, there you go. Yes, it worked.
Oh,
Hooray.
good.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're
So-
welcome. No problem. Thanks for sending it. And I think I'm going to do well, actually, you know what? Let's do the report first and approve it. And then when we can go to the agenda item for the report first. So I didn't have, let's see, actually, I'm going to take a quick look at it.
Well, you'll see in the top portion, there's a column called adjustments. And the 5,000 comes out of the Hugh Cargill and 5,000 goes into the Concord Cares. That's what we approved last month.
Right.
The other thing I'll note is I have to make a correction to the tax relief fund year-to-date disbursements when I was doing the annual report. That should be 73,125, not 73,300, but that's the only change to that. I think later we will be talking about the tax relief in terms of so 111 went out last year, and we are, or the disbursements were 73, and we're only getting about 40,000 in donations to that. So that's something we'll be talking about later. The current tax relief distributions are not sustainable with the amount of money we have in that account. But I think that's something we were going to talk about. And I think that's all.
Can you
So
send it
ahead.
just as at the end of the meeting, Catherine, just send it as an attachment by itself.
Yes, I will do that.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report with the correction to the year-to-date disbursement number?
I move to approve the treasurer's report with the suggested correction.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. I'm going to leave this up and just jump directly to the annual report, which is due January 19th. And I attached as a draft with all of the numbers to enter, which I can do from, I think all. Go ahead.
You can't do them all exact. Let's see, which ones?
Oh, yes,
Because
there are a few that we.
There
yes,
are
that
a
aren't-
few. So do you want to just go through the numbers quickly with me? Can I give them to you?
You know what? Why don't we
Do you-
just look at if we look at the annual report?
Yes,
we
I'm
fill
looking
it
at that.
and fill them in. Yeah, and then we just, if anyone has any comments about the content, and then we can fill in the numbers right now.
Okay. So do you want to do that, the second paragraph? um, Let me get the right one. Here it is. All right, a total of 139,388 was received.
I'm sorry, could you say that?
1,000.
I wasn't writing down fast enough. 139 what?
I think Elizabeth can probably
Oh.
do it and then send it out
Okay,
to us.
okay, that's fine, yeah.
Yes, yep, I'm
Correct
gonna
it now?
complete the annual report and then send
Okay.
it out again.
Okay.
Okay, it's 139,388 was received. 127,552 was distributed. In the next, for the Hugh Cargill Trust, 59,692 was received. 30,866 was distributed in 81 grants. And I think to that paragraph, we want to add that 5,000 was transferred from the Hugh Cargill Trust to the Concord Cares account.
Okay,
In CMLP, 10,000 was received from into the account, and 9,104 was distributed, and that's 28 grants. Concord Cares, 2,219 was granted to 6 citizens. The property tax relief, 37,360. And I cannot tell you how many residents, it's going to be about 60, but I don't know. You and Bob will have to fill in the number of recipients.
okay, I will get that from either Bob or Sharon.
And then the
Shannon.
total, the tax relief given was 73,125. 23,900 was distributed from the silent fund, and I would just say to over 100 families.
That's great, I like that. All right, great, thank you. Okay, so I have one number I'll get from either Shannon or Bob, which is a number of residents that received property tax relief. Okay.
Right.
Great. I just used the same report as last year. I did make it a tiny bit shorter. And I added
Mhm.
the fact that we have incorporated the responsibilities of the property tax relief fund committee. Okay,
Okay.
if I can, so I know it's a draft, not final, but I wonder if I could have an approval for this report because it is due the 19th, and that way I can finish it up with Shannon and info and then send it to the town. Is that all right with everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I approve.
I'm here.
Hi,
Oh,
Bob.
good.
Happy New Year.
Happy New
You
Year.
also. I've shared my screen to show the treasurer's report. Can you see it?
Yes, yep.
Okay, and Catherine just gave me all the data for the annual report. That's where we're at in the meeting. Although we jumped there directly from the treasurer's report.
Okay.
Did you have any comments on the draft for the annual report?
No, I originally I did, but with the way the checks were released, but then I realized what was going on. In other words, like what was active, what was direct payments and what was not, with the because with the escrow account people, we pay checks directly to them, and with the direct payers of the for taxes, we sent, that's one big check given, and then they deduct from their property tax.
So the way it's in the
So
annual,
I was questioning whether, yeah, the way it was listed in the annual, but I read it, as I reread it, it made some sense, so.
okay, do you, off the top of your head, do you know what the total number of residents in 2023 was that received relief?
It's in this, sixties, 62 or 3, unless we had
That's
just
a-
some
that-
in just lately.
Yeah,
Okay.
that sounds right, but I don't know specifically. So you could say,
I'll ask
you could just say
Shannon,
more than 6.
But it's time,
I'll ask Shannon for the number. I'm sure she has it.
yeah,
Okay, can I have a
Yeah.
motion to,
well, we have
To,
the list.
there's a delay, Bob, on, so can I have a motion to approve the annual report as drafted with Shannon's final number? So I can go ahead and submit it?
I so moved.
Second,
Everyone in favor?
I,
All right.
Hi.
Thanks very much. Okay. First matter to be discussed is the appointment policy, which I did send out. I'll just say I read the whole thing and I made 2 notes for myself. One was something I didn't know, which is the draft minutes are actually public documents, even before they're voted as final minutes. And so I didn't know that. And the other thing I noticed is that it does note that we can extend member terms due to specific circumstances, such as a vacancy. And that was really it. It was pretty straightforward. If anybody else has comments, things they learned or, they want to share. It's not a document that we edit. It's just one for our guidance.
Right,
Mhm.
all right.
I think we're running pretty smoothly, Elizabeth, so,
I do too, Lucy. Yeah, I think we do a great job.
yeah.
Okay. The other thing I decided to do this month, being the first month of the year, is to share the calendar with everyone. Judy gave me this calendar and I've been editing it as things change or adding things that help us run our meetings. And I look at it before each meeting to see if there's anything we're supposed to be doing. So I just thought it would be good to give it to everyone, so you see what we do during the year. And the only change I noticed this morning while I was skimming through it is that the annual report tends to be prepared in December. So I'm just gonna move that task to December. But we actually do a lot each year.
And, as far as the annual report in December, we'd have to do it right at the end because we approve a lot of things in December that might not be reflected accurately. So that's the only thing I would say.
Yeah, it's why for us, there's a short window between that last treasurer's report, which sometimes we don't even have the information for. And in that first week of December, and then getting all the numbers into our annual report. So you're right. Yeah, some of that's done, that annual report for us anyway is a last minute thing.
And the other thing is that, if we're really accurate about the year end, we don't have all of the numbers and receipts, that sort of thing. And a lot comes in between December 20th and December 31st, a lot of checks probably. So that's just.
But Catherine, I think that's in here, isn't it? This goes through December 31?
Right,
No,
yeah, we get. It's what?
It's on
It's through December.
20th on your report.
Yeah, that's accurate. Shannon did not do any more checks. That's when Shannon last worked on it. So she would not have deposited any checks that came in until the first of the year. So we won't know what those are until she actually opens them and deposits them.
Ah,
If
I
that's
see
what
what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean, Lucy.
Because a lot of
Uh,
people wait until the very end of the year to make their charitable donations. That's my comment.
Yes. For instance, last year, 20,000, we got $20,000 in gifts to the HCT in January, but this reflects when they're deposited. So the checks might have been sitting in envelopes at the townhouse, but they were not opened and processed until January. That's where they'll be picked up in here. We
I feel
can't
like
do it
we
any
had
other.
Yeah, and I feel like we had this conversation last year and the year before that about how exact do we want these numbers to be for accounting. Obviously, they need to be exact, and we do that. But for the annual report that goes to, in our book for the citizens, maybe it doesn't need to be as exact as we try to make it.
I think though that we're sort of very curious to see how our campaign turned out in 2023, because we wrote that wonderful letter that you wrote, Elizabeth.
We will know that at the end when I get the spreadsheet for January. That is everything that's happened in January.
Yeah.
So I
And
think
actually checks come in into February. So I think we can talk among ourselves about what the annual appeal brought in, but it's not going to be reflected in the annual report because the annual report is just about what happened through the end of December. Whereas our annual appeal checks come in into January.
I mean, we can
So-
get them all year, actually,
Yes.
we get donations all year, so it's not,
Yes.
it doesn't close off. I
I
don't think it's as big a deal.
So I have a suggestion. Maybe what I'll do is, well, first of all, I'll put an item on our agenda for February to see if for ourselves, if we can get kind of an idea of what the annual appeal results were.
Good.
And then I can also add that to our calendar that each February we try to kind of get an idea of the results of our annual appeal. Does that make sense? And then we can leave the
Yes.
annual report the way it is.
I think that's an excellent idea, and it might help to also add, like next month when we hear how we did, a comparison of the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
That was,
That's-
thank you, Hester, because that was something I was wondering with our treasurer's report.
Yeah.
We don't have that year-to-year comparison. And I wonder if so for example, that helps us understand how it sort of gives us a bigger picture of how the number of applicants, whether they're going up or down, the number of distributions, up, down, the number of contributions. We only see the treasurer's report, as it's supposed to, captures a month's data and then the year to date, but doesn't give us what was it a year ago for that?
Well, you can look at you can look at the treasurer's report from a year ago. And in the big spreadsheet that I send you, it has each of those months. So what I do and what I did this December is I printed out, I looked at the one from a year ago to see how we're doing. And the response to the fundraising is about the same as it was a year ago. We're not, it's not far off. So that is something I can look at and comment on.
I could put it in the calendar also, that it's something we do in January. We just sort of, take a peek at what it was a year ago and see how we're doing. I mean, this is essentially what raised our concern about the tax relief fund is looking at numbers from last year.
Mhm.
Okay,
What if Catherine were able to pull out the year end for the last 3 or 4 years, just those pages? And if you, not every month, but just the year end, the last, say, 3 or 4 years, and just attach that to us so we could look at it ourselves. I find that very interesting. So
So
I'm
you
sure,
want, you want to see the year end for the last couple of years?
yeah, just
Okay.
those pages. I think, it'd be interesting for us to be able to do that, not in a meeting, but so we can sort of study it ourselves and then comment on it, when we're together.
Okay,
Does that seem like a reasonable?
Mhm.
And then we can get rid of all those interim ones, like September, October, etc. We don't need those anymore, but just kind of the year ends from the old days.
okay.
um,
Sure.
I think it's really useful information. And honestly, this Excel spreadsheet could be organized in such an easier to use way. I don't know if we're allowed to do it. But Excel can do some pretty cool stuff that would make it easier for us to see. It can be pulling data from other sheets into a new sheet.
Yeah, that's not, I don't have those skills to pull
Okay.
from others.
I'm gonna ask Shannon if it's all right for me to just kind of play around with it a little bit, because I have done that for myself
Well,
where,
this isn't from, this one doesn't have, I get a huge spreadsheet from Shannon
okay,
that I then take the numbers and input in here each month. This isn't tied to the huge spreadsheet. There are a few, anyway, we can talk about this another time.
yes, I would love to meet with you, or if you could forward me that big one, and I might just play around with it and see if I can get it to do what we're trying to do so that it doesn't add a new responsibility to the treasurer's role. It can just be automatically calculated for us.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's between now and the next meeting, Catherine, let's try to connect on
Okay,
looking at the information. Thanks. In the meantime, I am going to add that we do sort of a 3 years year-end review in January of our treasurer's reports, so we have a bigger picture.
okay,
And then I also added in February that we try to do sort of a guesstimate of our the results of our annual appeal. Okay, cool, great. All right. So the next on our agenda is considering whether our funds, the Hugh Cargill funds, can be moved to the tax relief category, which is very related to what we were just talking about. There are, I'm not sure that it's kept track of, because Shannon has mentioned to us before that it's just sort of one big bucket. But I wanted to sort of get ahead of the possibility that we have less tax relief funds than we want to distribute. So the only hangup is that sometimes when we receive donations, they're very specific about which fund they go into. So we have to be, that's the only thing we really have to keep an eye on, is that we aren't allocating funds from someone's donation that they had intended only for Hugh Cargill or only for tax relief, that we don't just sort of mix the funds together.
I,
Elizabeth, do you know how, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, Kester, go ahead.
Do you know how frequent that is? I mean, is it a rare request or is it fairly common?
People just have preferences. I mean, Bob can speak to it too. We've been signing, we go each week to sign letters, thank you letters. And Shannon gives us separate folders. One which is use it any way you like, another is specific to Hugh Cargill, and another is specific to tax reliefs. And it's, I don't know, what do you think, Bob? It's not a unique situation. People definitely express a preference
No.
sometimes.
Well, we asked them to in our,
Yeah,
return, which
Right.
do you
Yeah.
want?
Right.
and actually,
People are,
there's a place to check off too for, you know, which one you want to go to on the envelope.
Place, right.
yeah,
There's
I-
three choices. There's, one, the other, or both.
Right.
Yeah,
and from looking, I see all of the names of people who have donated. People definitely either give to the Hugh Cargill or the tax. I don't think we should tap the Hugh Cargill Trust as our first line. I think we go back. This is the Selectmen's, it's called the Selectmen's Tax Relief Fund. I think we go to the Selectmen and say we're going to have to cut the amount of money we can give unless there's more fundraising. The town has some donations. For instance, the Silent Fund, I make a request and the trustee of donations writes me sends us money for the Silent Fund. I'm wondering if we should go to the trustees and ask them for money for tax relief before we try taking it out of the Hugh Cargill Trust. And I also wonder if this new tax relief that all of us have gotten that just went through this fall, how people are going to feel about giving to tax relief. I wonder if that's going to impact our donations and I wonder how it's going to impact the people with these less expensive homes. Are they getting a big cut in their taxes? I think that's something we're going to have to look into.
I love the way you said, Catherine, the tax relief that we all just received. Ha ha.
Right.
right.
Well,
Whatever we all
got-
just received, right?
Well, some of us got tax relief. Some people are paying more in their taxes because of that. And I wonder how that's going to impact our donations. Because it's going to be it is controversial already.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think one of the first things I will look into see who's on the board of the trustees of town donations and see if that's something that they might transfer some funds to the tax relief fund before we take it out of Hugh Cargill Trust. I just think we're going to make some people unhappy if we do that.
I think Hugh Cargill Trust is sort of sacrosanct. It's what we originally were set up to do, and I don't think we should be stealing from that fund for tax relief.
Bob, what do you think?
No, I think I agree. I would think, we're under the select board, they sign all the checks too. So I think we should, the town, people in town donations they've come back, a couple of times and said, hey, we've got money available, so it's just a matter where they allocate it. We can get money from them as well. So
Exactly.
I think we should go, like someone suggested, to go first, so.
I think we're,
Now, we just did a the $5,000, we just moved that. I'm trying to remember was that from the fund? That was from the fund,
That was
right?
from-
The 5,000?
It was from Hugh Cargill and we transferred
Hugh
it
Cargill.
to Concord Cares.
Right, yeah. That's maybe a little different than doing it to this tax relief.
I agree.
I hadn't thought about it in this way. But the residential exemption and the property tax relief assessment amount are potentially related now in a way they weren't before.
Yes.
And that it's really not up to the five of us to, casually make any changes without quite a bit, actually, of exploring with the select board, with with the citizens about how to continue that tax relief process. I think we
Well, you
might end
think a
up,
lot more.
we might end up getting quite a bit more attention to our responsibilities and our activities than we have in the past.
Maybe they haven't worked it out themselves.
Exactly, exactly.
I don't think we're the ones that are going to figure it out. I think
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe
Are
I'll
you
chat.
worried about like getting a lot more people?
No, I'm not worried about anything. I just think that these two things, our existing property tax relief fund and the applications and distribution of that, and the new residential exemption, both under the select board's sort of umbrella. No one's talked about them yet as being related, and yet they are, because our assessed values don't change, but the taxes we pay are changing for a large number of people. And there will be some opinions for sure about how much tax relief is appropriate or desired or supported by the citizens of the town.
I anticipate a whole issue of the bridge to address this matter with the entire town weighing in, because it's a huge, huge issue, and
Change.
it hasn't really settled in.
Well, I decided not to submit an article to the bridge about our annual appeal for that reason, because I was reading it every week and could see there's a lot of people are coming up to speed, learning more, have opinions, strong opinions, questions, concerns about taxes. And here I was about to write a letter saying, contribute to the Hugh Cargill Fund and the Property Tax Relief Fund, and did not want to add yet another, I don't know, confusion or consideration to the conversation, because I think it's going to take some time. But I think the appropriate thing is for our committee to reach out to the select board. I mean, it should be Terry, right? Our liaison, and let her know that these are conversations we're having about tax relief, and we want to be really thoughtful to how everyone in town feels about it. I mean, I wasn't even thinking about it when I put this agenda item on, and yet now I see it as a much larger conversation.
Yeah.
That there will certainly be people who agree strongly, disagree strongly, and somewhere in the middle about the properties in town with the lower assessments that are in their minds almost receiving a double tax relief because they're applying to us for the tax relief fund, the property tax relief fund, and they've now benefited from the residential exemption. I'm not expressing any judgment one way or another. I just see this as being a pretty big conversation. Yes,
Elizabeth, there are a lot of, there are other qualifications for exemptions too, not only what we do. In other words, it's not just us that people can do. They can, delay payments, they can, there's a couple of other things like to qualify.
well, but that's, so for the circuit breaker, yes, but for the property tax relief fund, it's just their
Yeah.
assessed value.
Yeah,
We don't ask for any documentation, we don't,
no, but we can see what their property value is, so.
well, and each year we have, I don't remember where on our calendar it is, but each year we talk about that. What is the new limit on the assessed value? We've been, every year, we've just been going ahead with whatever the prior year's median is, but that might change.
Right.
Yeah, we've changed it, a couple
We
of
have.
times, so.
It's been going up.
Every year.
At this, but,
Everything does.
but at this point, I don't know if we, can do much about it. In terms of, it's still falling out now, I think. What's going to happen is still, in transition, I think, if there is any.
Right.
I agree. And I think what I'm saying is that let's participate in that conversation by including the select board
Mhm.
as a committee, letting them know that this is sort of on our minds,
Right.
as an aspect of that conversation. I'll follow up with Terry and just kind of get her thoughts on it, let her know we had this conversation.
Maybe they'd want to make it an agenda item on one of their meetings.
Exactly. I think that would be really
They should
important.
take the lead. Absolutely. And they should take the lead on that.
Yes, because that we are, one of their arms, let's say. We don't operate isolated from them. They are actually in charge of our responsibilities. Okay, I'll do that. Okay. So an update, Bob, on our property tax relief.
I have no new applicants, for this, month. There may be, I don't know, I was gonna check with Shannon and, but as far as I know, there are no new applicants.
Okay, thank you. That is our meeting for today. So if someone could adjourn us to executive session.
Yeah, I move that we adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing individuals or families seeking assistance, the disclosure of which would be a violation of privacy. Is there a second?
Second,
And a
Oh.
roll call vote.
Aye.
I.
Aye.
See you all in a few minutes. Thank you.
Okay.